Hi everybody, welcome back to another very exciting Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I am your host, Jesus Ramirez. Today we're going to work on color grading in Photoshop using gradient maps. We're going to create a duotone effect. Let me know how you guys are doing in the chat. I already see a lot of familiar faces. Hey Sam, how's it going? Good to see you. Monica, Chad, Sean, Susan, Steve, Alberto, Claudia. How's it going, guys? Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. Let me know where you're watching from. I know that we usually have people from all over the world. I know Claudia's in Manchester. Yeah, so let me know where you're from. We have Frank from Montreal. Good to see you, Frank. Awesome. Yeah, well, you guys are typing up in that chat, letting me know where you're from. I'd like to remind you that if you're watching from YouTube, make sure that you head over into behance.net/live so that I can see your comments. If you're typing up your comments on YouTube, I cannot see them. So make sure you go into Behance, log in, and comment there. Then I'll be able to interact with you during the stream. Awesome. So we have Stan from India, Matt from Washington, Michelle from Canada, Nana from Ghana, Lillian from Montreal. We have Neil from the UK, Jay from South Florida, Susan from Pleasanton, California. We're basically neighbors. I'm from San Ramon, California. Cool. We got Juraj from India. We got Mark, blue dot in a red state. All right. Awesome. We got Carol from South Florida. Great to see everybody. Alberto from Miami. Beautiful Miami. Awesome. So let me switch over into my screen and let me show you guys this very important page. This is the behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page. And from here, the first thing that you need to do is click on this big blue button so that you can take the challenge with me. This will allow you to receive notifications via the Creative Cloud app for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenges. So make sure you click on that. Also, make sure that you click on the community chat link. That will take you on into the Discord page. This is the link that you can type up on your browser if you want to get to it. And what Discord is, that is a place where you can come in here and under feedback on the left hand side, click on current challenge, and you can see the current challenge submissions. This is what we worked on yesterday on improving a portrait. If you missed that video, you can watch the recording. All these streams are recorded. I'll show you how to get to them in a moment. But on Discord, under the current challenge tab, make sure that you submit your work, and either myself or somebody from the Adobe community, the Adobe team, or the mentors would respond to your questions. And yeah, this is the work that we've been working on. I can see that this is some of the before and afters again from yesterday's stream on doing portrait retouching using blending mode. So make sure that you check that out if you missed it. If you missed it, you can find that on behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, and you'll see challenge number 1 here, polishing portraits. Today we're going to work on color grading. So every day a new box unlocks and you'll be able to download a file so that you can follow along with me. And below that get started file, you'll see a link to the recording of the video. So you can click on watch video, this blue button here, to watch yesterday's stream if you missed it. As I said earlier, we're going to work on creating a duotone color grading effect using gradient maps. And you can click on the get started button to download the file. So all you need to do is simply click on get started. That will open up a Dropbox link and you'll see this PSD here, this Photoshop document that you can download and follow along with me. But feel free to use your own photos if you like, especially once you learn the technique. You can submit your own photo onto Discord. Cool. So while I'll give you guys a moment to download this file, I'll check out the comments and see if there are any questions, comments, concerns. Hopefully no complaints. I can see that Claudia from Print My Soul is tagging everybody, saying lovely to see you. We have Marsha from Toronto. Cool. We got Black Betchy from Israel. Rana from Scotland. Awesome. Yeah, so we have people from all over the world watching. That's Super, super cool. All right. So yeah, why don't we jump right into today's challenge? Actually, one thing that I didn't mention that I should probably mention is that when you're working on your challenges and you complete them, make sure to also submit them onto behance.net. You can click on create a project. If you don't know how to do that, go back and watch the welcome stream where I showed how to create a project and create a cover, but most importantly, how to use the hashtag PS Daily Challenge so that you have an opportunity to be featured in the Creative Challenges community curated gallery. And that's what you see here. We have challenges from Photoshop, Illustrator, and XD, and you can click on these different projects to get inspired and see what people have been creating using the daily creative challenges. So make sure you check that out. That's under behance.net/galleries/challenges. And actually, one last thing I should mention is if you're interested in learning a little more about Photoshop, make sure that you check out the Creative Cloud webcast that I did. It's Mastering Photoshop Essentials with me, Jesus Ramirez, and it's a 1-hour webcast here at Adobe. It's free to watch. I'll paste that over onto the chat. That way you guys can check it out later on today after you check out all the streams. But basically, it's a 1-hour free webinar with me learning Photoshop. So make sure you check that out. I pasted the link in the chat. But the link is creativecloud.adobe.com/ccg/webcast. So yeah, check that out. All right, so let's jump right into Photoshop. So this is the file that you should have downloaded from that link on behance.net/challenges/Photoshop. I have so many URLs in my head that I have to figure out which is the right one to get this file. But anyway, thanks Sam for posting the clickable link on the chat for the Creative Cloud webcast. Awesome. Cool. So this is the image that we're going to work with, and we're going to create a duotone effect, a color grading. Color grading simply means, if you watched yesterday's stream, you probably remember. Color grading is simply applying a color effect to an image to tell a story. It's just a creative look that you apply to a photo, and it could be anything. So I'm going to show you a duotone effect today. There's a lot of ways of creating a duotone effect. I'm going to show you actually two, not just one. We're going to start out with color grading, and then I'm going to show you an alternate technique that might be a little easier if you're just getting started with Photoshop. So why don't we jump right into this project. So with this layer selected, what I'm going to do is just press Ctrl-J on Windows, Command-J on the Mac to duplicate it. So that keyboard shortcut simply duplicates the layer that you have selected. And with this original layer, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to disable it. The layer on top, I'm going to go into the Properties panel, and I'm just going to click on Remove Background under Quick Actions. That is going to use Adobe Sensei, which is machine learning technology that will analyze the image and try to find the main subject, and it will select it and apply a layer mask automatically so the background gets removed. It's not perfect, but it does a really good job. You can zoom in into certain areas like his hat, and you'll see that Photoshop missed a couple of areas here. Very easy to fix. All you need to do is select the brush tool, and with white as your foreground color, just paint in the areas that the AI missed. No big deal. I'm not going to take too much time fine-tuning the mask in this video just because there's no need to. You guys can fine-tune your own images. And one thing that you should probably do is select your layer mask, and under the Properties panel, make sure that you click on Selected Mask. Once you click on the layer mask, the Selected Mask button should appear, and you can just smooth out your selection and use these Glover refinements to refine your mask. But so that you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to change my view to black and white. And notice that the edges on this mask are jagged, but if I smooth them out, I can smooth them out with this smooth slider. See that? See how this slider just smooths out those edges? So I can smooth them out. I can add a little bit of contrast and maybe smooth them out a little more, like so. Maybe more contrast to make sharper edges. And I can shift the edge inward, and I can press OK, and that will give me a much, much better selection. So now I have my model in one layer, and I have the complete image in another. Now, we're gonna start with, question, which one is better? Remove background, which I didn't know existed, or select subject? It's the same technology. The only difference is that select subject creates a selection, and remove background applies a layer mask to that selection, but it's exactly the same. You're going to get the same result. So if you just want to get a selection, you select subject. If you want to automatically apply a layer mask to that selection, then use the remove background feature. One thing that I didn't mention about the remove background feature is that it only works on pixel-based layers. It doesn't work on smart objects, and the layer has to be unlocked. So it wouldn't work on a background layer. So you need to click on that little lock icon to the right of the layer to remove the lock and to apply the background removal function. Cool. Let me see if there's any other questions. How did you get to the properties panel? Very easy. Go into Window and make sure that you have properties enabled, but it should be somewhere in your left-hand side layout there. Let me see. Is that guy eating a popsicle shaped like a nose? I'm not sure if it's shaped like the nose or it looks that way, but it's something like that. Cool. Awesome. So no more questions. Yep. Cool. Awesome, Alberto. I really appreciate that comment. Thank you so much. But anyway, so now that we have our two layers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two techniques in one. So first of all, you can do this entire project with either technique or a combination of the techniques I'm about to show you. So it's totally up to you how you do it. But the first technique will be the one that's slightly more, I don't want to use the word difficult. It's just a little more technical. And then the second one's a little bit easier, I think, for beginners. So you decide which one you use. Maybe you try them both. So the one that we advertised in the stream was the gradient map technique. So with a gradient map, you can go into the layer style here, and I'm sorry, not layer style, adjustment layer icon, and click on gradient map. Photoshop will apply a color map to the brightness of your image. So on the left hand side, you can see here that we have black, and that applies that color to the darks of the image. So if I select red, now the darkest colors will be red and the brightest colors will be white, because that's what we have on the right hand side. So I can change that color to say green. So now the darkest colors are red and the brightest colors are green. And I can click and drag on these points and then create more so that I can map different colors to the image, like so. Or if you want to, you can select the colors that are found in these groups. And if you were here for the very first stream, the welcome stream, you saw how we enabled the legacy gradients, where you have a whole bunch more color harmonies that you can apply to your image. So that's how the gradient map works. Now, before we actually apply it, we have to think a little bit about what colors we're going to use. So we're going to use two colors, duotone effect. That's the whole point of this video. And you can select any colors that you want, but if you're having trouble thinking of what colors to use for a project like this, let me show you a trick. If you go into Window and select extensions, you'll see this Adobe Color Themes option. You can enable that, and that will bring up Adobe Color Themes that used to be known, I think it was called Cooler. Somebody in the chat will probably help me remember the name, but I think it was like Adobe Cooler or something like that. But anyway, the point is that this panel allows you to select different color harmonies here by clicking on this icon. And if you select complementary, you can click and drag on the color wheel, and you can see which colors are opposite in the color wheel, therefore complementary, and therefore should look good right next to each other. So for example, if the classic one that you'll see everywhere is the orange teal combination. So if that's what you wanted to go for, you can click on the blue color here, and then click on this icon to set it as the active color. And the reason that it became gray here, not blue, is because I have the layer mask selected. But if I select a pixel based layer or something that's not a layer mask, it could be anything, just not a layer mask, and click on this icon, you'll see how it sets it to blue. So I have blue there now. And what I can do is go back into my gradient map and actually let me just clear that and create a new one. If I create a new gradient map, it'll automatically apply the color in the foreground, which is that blue, and I can come in here and edit this blue any way that I want. So I can create another blue, and you can create a different one just by clicking on one and then clicking elsewhere on the gradient map, and it just duplicates that same color. So what I could do now is place these blues here in the gradient map, and I can make the one on the far left a darker shade of blue and the one on the right a brighter shade of blue, and you can just adjust these accordingly until you get the blue that you want, and you can press OK. And there we go. That's the background. Now we have the foreground. Remember, we masked out the person, so now they're in a separate layer, so we can apply a completely different color grade to that person. So what I could do now is select him and create a gradient map. But before I do that, I gotta select the opposite color. So the opposite color here will be this orange, right? So then I can click on this orange and then click on this icon to set the active color. It's orange now in the foreground color. And when I create a gradient map, it will apply it to the entire layer. We don't want that. We just want it to apply it to the person layer. So all we need to do is click on this icon to create a clipping mask. A clipping mask looks at the layer below and uses that as the area to show the visible pixels. In this case, the area to show the effect. So before and after. And now we can click on the gradient map and we can just duplicate this orange by selecting it and clicking elsewhere in the gradient map. And I'll do the same thing. I'll create 3. I'll make this one a darker orange, in this case brown. And this one will be a brighter shade of orange. And obviously you can keep adjusting these colors any way that you want. You're not stuck with the colors that you selected in the color picker. It could be anything. But these colors right here are basically the ones that I got by using the color wheel. Like I said, you're not stuck with these colors. You can do something else. For example, you can add a hue and saturation adjustment layer, clip it to the layer below, and maybe adjust the saturation. Maybe you like the orange, but it's just too saturated, so you can desaturate it a bit. Or maybe you like the orange a little bit, but maybe it's not quite right. You can use the hue slider to just shift the hue just a little bit before and after. And again, if you're unhappy with what you create, you can always click on the gradient and come back and just make changes to the colors that you selected. So as you can see, this technique gives you a lot of control, a lot of flexibility, but it can get a little out of hand if you're new in Photoshop. So let me show you a second technique that will hopefully be a little bit easier if you're just starting out with Photoshop. So we're just going to start with the 2 layers. Okay. And for this bottom layer, I'm just going to create a solid color fill layer, and I'm just going to select whatever color I want. Now, I'm not going to worry about the complementary colors, so I'm just going to pick whatever colors I want. But you could also select complementary colors if you wanted to. So I'm just going to select a darker green, press OK, and I want to use the brightness of the background, but use the hue and saturation of the foreground. And the blending mode that will allow me to do that is the color blending mode, like you see there. See that? And what I can do now is create a levels adjustment layer and use this layer to control the contrast and the brightness of that background. See that? Like so. So you have total control of the brightness with the levels adjustment layer. And then with this layer here, the one on top, I can do the same thing. Create a solid color fill layer. And I'm just going to select a brown, dark brown color like so. Clip it to the layer below. Another way of clipping is pressing Control-Alt-G on Windows, Command-Option-G on the Mac. And once again, I'll change the blending mode to color. And I'll create a levels adjustment layer. Click on this icon and then adjust the brightness accordingly until you get something that you're happy with. Like so. And if you're unhappy with the color, you can always double click on the thumbnail. It brings up the color again. You can adjust it, change it any way that you want. And again, keep adjusting it so that it looks exactly like you want. The point is that you're using 2 colors to separate the foreground from the background, and you're creating this cool duotone effect. The colors that you use are totally up to you. Again, if you get stuck, you can use the color found here, the color tool found here under extensions under Adobe color themes. Let me see if we have any questions. Let me just scroll up here. We have a lot of comments. I hope they're not all questions. That means that I didn't explain things correctly. So let me just go up a little bit. Cool. Yeah, just no questions. so far. Okay, so yeah, Adobe Cooler. Yes, Alberto, thank you for that. Um, cool, no questions so far. I'm just reading everybody's comments just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, Adobe Color Theme, super cool tool. Awesome. Yeah, it looks like there's no questions. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. I'm going through. Oh yeah, there's a banana. It always comes up. Yes, there is a banana on my toolbar. I showed how to add it in the welcome stream. If you missed it, check it out. We always get bananas with Jesus. That's right. Are you using this effect to achieve a natural look? Well, no, this is definitely wouldn't be a natural look because we only have two colors in the image. So definitely not. This is completely artistic, subjective to whatever colors and brightness and saturation and all that good stuff you think looks good. So definitely not realistic. So the advantage of one over the other is, I wouldn't say advantage. It just depends on how your brain works. You might prefer separating everything into adjustment, into like like a layer that just controls the color, right, and the saturation. A layer that just controls the levels, and actually you can even get more, get a deeper level of control. Like for example, like let's just assume that this layer just controls. We'll leave it set to color, but we'll only worry about the hue. And then this one controls the brightness, right? You can even add another one that just controls the saturation, and we can just control the saturation with this one. See that? And if you watch yesterday's stream, we also talked about how the vibrance adjustment layer might be a better way of saturating so it doesn't blow out the pixels. But the point is that I don't want to call it an advantage. It's just a different way to work. If there was an advantage, quote unquote, with the gradient map, obviously it will be a different effect, but with the gradient map, you can just do more than one color, right? Because you can maybe do blue, orange, and then green, and that'll give you like this completely different look, right? That one single adjustment layer wouldn't be able to do. One single solid fill layer wouldn't be able to give you. But this is a completely different effect. But for the effect that we were going for, just the duotone effect, using either method, it's basically the same. Just it depends on what you perceive as being easier. But I just wanted to show you both techniques so that you can try them out and use the one that better works for you. Clipping mask, Control Alt G, Command Option G on the Mac. Alejandro, cool. Cool. How to use a blending mode. I'm not exactly sure what you mean about how to use the blending mode, but in this particular case, the way that this blending mode that I selected works is that I'm just applying the hue and the saturation of that layer by using the color blending mode, and I'm using the brightness of the layer below to come through, and then I'm using the levels adjustment to control that brightness. And if I wanted to make that color pop, I can always increase the brightness. And also another cool thing that I didn't mention that is probably worth mentioning is that if you get colors that look well together, they're complementary colors. I know these are not complementary, but they're close to complementary. And what you can do once you have colors that are complementary is create a hue and saturation layer on top of everything and shift the hues, and they will always be complementary, right? So they will always look good together. In this case, I think the colors are close enough to complementary that they will look good next to each other no matter which combination of colors we select. So if you're unhappy with your original result, just use the hue slider. Maybe you'll come across a different color combination that works good for you. Awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed showing you this technique. Let me know in the comments if you learned something, what you learned, if you plan on using it on your projects, and I hope to see your submissions on Discord. So make sure that you go onto Discord, current challenge right here, and submit your duotone color grading portraits. I'd love to see what you guys come up with. I'm curious to see what color combinations you're going to use. So make sure that you submit your work on here, and also make sure that you head over into behance.net/Photoshop or /challenges/Photoshop and click on this big blue button to join the challenge with me. Thank you so much. I'll be back again tomorrow for another Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. Also, make sure that you stick around. Have a jam-packed schedule. We have Fernando coming up next with photo retouching. Then we have Andrew for the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge, Aaron at noon, Andrea for the XD Daily Creative Challenge, and Kyle T. Webster for a draw along, and finally Voodoo Val for the sign off with jetpacks and roller skates. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow.